This was back in 2015 when I was 16. It was during the summer and both my parents were heading out of town to visit some relatives, and they wouldn't be home for 3 days. I was the only child and I was the only one left in the house. My grandma did visit me every single day to make me lunch, but of course she wouldn't stay during the night, and that's when I went wild. Watching movies, gaming, watching YouTube. Everything that you could picture a 16-year-old doing when his parents weren't home. So, the second night I was watching a movie, and I ran out of chips and I paused the movie and went down in the kitchen to grab some more. And then I heard a window break and a door opening. The kitchen was separate to the living room, where the door was opened. I grabbed a kitchen knife and slowly peeked my head around. And there he was. A tall man around 6 foot. He had a baseball cap, some old jacket, probably leather. It was torn on the right sleeve. And my phone was in the room upstairs. From the kitchen door, the stairs were directly to its right, so in my mind, I was thinking that I could sneak past him and lock myself in. He was going through the shelf next to the door, very loudly I must say, and so I got to the stairs somehow, and he turned around and realized that I was there. Out of fear, I guess, I screamed and I threw the knife at him. I missed him, but it hit the wall beside his head, sticking the knife in it. This somehow scared him off because he ran out, maybe scared that I would throw more knives at him. I did run back to get another. My adrenaline was pumping at the time. When I saw that he did leave, I ran to my room and I called the police. They came quickly and just took fingerprints and any DNA samples that they could find. The next morning, I called my parents and they came back around noon. I don't know why, but I had kept the knife lodged in the wall next to the door. So, making sense, the first question they asked when they got home was, why was there a knife in the wall? We eventually changed the front door with a more heavy-duty one. They found the guy too and they arrested him the same week. Apparently the intruder wanted to call the cops on me for supposed assault. I guess the moral of the story is hide when someone is robbing your house, or learn how to act like a maniac. Hey everyone, I'm really writing this out as a way to vent because I'm in a situation where I feel really stuck. Any advice is appreciated, but I'm not sure there's anything that can be said that will actually help. I've tried at just about everything. I'm going to start from the beginning. This is a story about 2 years in the making, so I'll try to be as thorough as possible. In 2019, I graduated with my master's degree and moved to a relatively rural area for my PhD. Thinking that we had made an investment, my dad and I purchased a house. The intent was to rent it out once I had completed my PhD. The house was only about a block away from a dive bar where my dad was able to make some pretty good friends. He introduced me to everyone, and everyone let me know that I would be so happy to be in my new house, because my next door neighbor was the absolute nicest guy that you could ever meet. So we met the neighbor and he did seem nice enough. He suggested that we exchange numbers just in case I ever needed anything, and I thought that was a good idea. What's the worst that could happen? A few days later, my dad left to go back to his home in another state, and I was left to my own devices. Literally the day that he left, it started. My neighbor texted me while I was away and let me know that he had left a gift for me on my front porch. In his text, he started using pet names like Sweetie and Cutie. I went home and he had left a hand-painted feeding dish for my cats in my mailbox. At this point, I wasn't that alarmed. He was just being nice, I thought. The next day, he sent me more texts with pet names and I took the opportunity to make sure. He knew that I wasn't interested in anything romantic. He replied back with a rambling text about how all the person ever needs is friends and he would like to be friends with me. After that, he would send me text messages frequently. Everything from inviting me fishing to telling me that he left more gifts on my porch. I would often not reply or just tell him that I was busy. I didn't want to be rude, but I also had no interest in any sort of relationship with him other than neighbors. One night, I got a text from the manager of the bar down the street. letting me know if my neighbor knocked on my door, I shouldn't answer. She then told me that my neighbor had walked down to the bar with a hatchet and told the bartender that he was hearing voices that got louder as he got closer to the bar. He threatened to kill someone with a hatchet if the voices didn't stop. They called the police and the police took the hatchet from him, but they made no arrest. The manager of the bar picked me up and I spent the night at her house. She told me that the police said my neighbor was on meth. After that, I tried to keep my distance even more, but things got even weirder. One day, I went out to my car to find a dead squirrel in my driveway. The squirrel had been very clearly run over and moved to right in front of the driver's side door. I just stepped over it, got in my car and left. When I returned home, the squirrel was gone. Shortly after, I received a text from my neighbor that said, "Someone or something put a dead squirrel in your driveway. Don't worry, I moved it for you." I felt like this was a weird way to word this, and I had suspected he was the one who had put the squirrel in the driveway in the first place. Another time, I walked out of my house to see that he had placed an unspent shotgun shell on the bricks in his front yard. He came out and told me that it was to serve as a warning for anyone walking between our houses. For the next couple of months, I did my best to avoid him. He would text me, inviting me over, and I would come up with an excuse or just ignore him completely. I wanted to remain cordial since he was my neighbor, but it was getting very annoying and I was uncomfortable. He would text me as soon as I got home, telling me that he was watching me come and go from my house. Around Halloween, he handcrafted a large casket and wrote, "Here lies the last son of a gun who played mind games, November 2012. What the heck? All this time still sending me messages. Eventually I got fed up and stopped responding completely. Less than 2 weeks after I had stopped responding, he threw a 50-pound flower pot at my front door. You know, those big concrete planters, yeah, one of those. I called the police, who advised me to get a stalking no contact order. A few days later, I was watching TV when a notification popped up that my neighbor was trying to cast a video to my screen. I declined it twice, and I filed another report with the police. During this time, I started the process of getting a stalking no contact order. I saw 3 different victim advocates who all told me different things. I went out of town for a conference, and during that time, someone had attempted to break into my home. I had an ADT security system, so while they didn't succeed, I was aware of the attempt. After the conference, I came home to the entire world shutting down because of the virus. I was trapped in my home 24/7, with my stalker neighbor right next door. Luckily, court proceedings for protection orders didn't stop. Right before court, he sent me a text telling me that he was sorry for what he had done, that he could tell when he saw me outside that he made me uncomfortable. Then he went on to tell me that he could tell my hair has gotten longer and that I look beautiful. I went to court and provided all of the evidence that I had, the timeline of everything that had ever happened, the text that he had been sending me asking if I wanted a massage, the text that I sent him telling him the way he was speaking to me was inappropriate, the text saying that he knew he made me uncomfortable. I told the judge that I suspected he had attempted to break into my house while I was out of town. And the kicker is, he didn't deny any of it. Actually, he told the judge that he took full accountability for everything. He said that he was in recovery and was trying to turn over a new leaf. He didn't oppose the protection order at all. So in March 2020, I actually received the stalking no contact order. Everything was pretty quiet for a while. I mean, he did some weird stuff, but that's because he's a weird dude. It wasn't anything that made me fear for my safety, though. That is, until he got back up on the drugs again. At this time, we had found an unspent shotgun casing in my flower bed. It was consistent with the one that he had previously used to send a warning. This occurred a couple of months after I started dating my boyfriend, and I suspect it was a warning to him. After this, and for a variety of reasons, my boyfriend moved in with me. and he moved in pretty quickly. But everything turned out fine. We're still together and as happy in our relationship as we can be. New Year's 2021. I was awoken to yelling. I had turned on my security cameras and got footage of him sticking his head out of his window and screaming obscenities at my bedroom window for about 7 minutes. It doesn't sound like a long time, but when your stalker is screaming threats and obscenities for 7 minutes, it seems like a long time. He called me a harlot and he said, "Happy effing New Year." He said that he was going to blow up his house with his gas line. I called the police, who did respond. They told me that he never said my name, so they can't prove it was a violation of the protection order. The officer said, and I quote, "There is nothing illegal about yelling in your own house." They left without even speaking to him. All I could do at this point was do my best to avoid him. I parked on the street because my driveway is pretty close to his front porch. I got used to living with my curtains drawn. I always made sure that my cameras were charged, all 5 of them. Yeah, because of him, I spent over 1K on cameras. Every inch of my yard is covered. Since then, he's been seen by me and my other neighbors talking to people who aren't there, going outside and screaming nonsense. Things like, "I have Cheerios on my necklace." I'm not even joking. This basically brings me up to last week. In the morning, I was getting ready for the day when I heard screaming again. "Someone's going to die over this sweatshirt." I turned on the cameras. I got footage of him walking around the alley behind my house screaming, "Are you proud? How about I get my shotgun? I'll get everybody all fired up." I called the police. Once again, they didn't charge him with a violation of the protection order. Instead, they gave him an ordinance violation for disturbing the peace. The police told me that it seems like he was off his medication again, and that was that, and they left. Last night, I was awoken to hammering outside my window at 1 a.m. He was cutting down his privacy fence, horizontally. I called the police for a noise complaint and they just told him to stop, and that was that. As I write this, he is outside continuing to horizontally cut down his privacy fence. That means that the privacy fence only stands about 3 feet tall now. This was the one thing that made me feel relatively safe about hanging out in my backyard, and now that's gone. All of this is to say that I'm tired. I just want to live in a house where I can be sure that my neighbor won't try to kill me, where I can feel confident that he's not going to try to break in. My boyfriend and I are trying to buy a house to move, but it's difficult. I'm a PhD student, and so I don't make very much money. Renting won't work. And because I have 4 cats, plus my partner's cat and dog, although we have a place secured for them if necessary, and finding a place to rent with so many animals is difficult, if not impossible. I refuse to rehome them, so maybe it's partially my fault that I'm stuck in this situation. My dad has agreed to co-sign on another mortgage, and I've gotten a second job. We should be able to save up enough money within a few months, but until then, I'm stuck. I just don't know what else to do. I'm tired, I'm hungry, so I figured that I would write this to vent. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. There are still so many different instances that I've left out. I'm just so exhausted. This happened to my very close family friends on Christmas Day a few years ago. I used to babysit for this family around age 12, and I later house and dog sat for them for months at a time, all throughout my 20s. This story is creepy for me because I've spent a ton of time alone at their house. So, this family is enjoying a stereotypical Christmas Day evening in the family home. It's winter and so it's dark very early. It's a drizzly, wet, foggy night outside. It's a large family and all the kids are all grown in their 20s and 30s, most with jobs and out of state. But everyone has come home to be together for the holidays. The siblings are all playing with their presents and the TVs are all on. Christmas music is playing. Food is being cooked and eaten, and there's a lot of laughing and talking. This goes on for many hours. The youngest daughter spots her dad standing in the middle of the courtyard outside in a black hooded sweatshirt. The hood is over his head, so just his mouth and chin are visible, and he's looking in at the house. She casually calls over to her mom, who's in the kitchen, to go and check on dad because it seems like he needs help with something in the yard. Except mom says that dad is in the bedroom taking a nap. Mom and the sister quickly come to the realization that there is a creepy total stranger in a black hoodie just staring in at them, not moving, on Christmas Day evening. As you can imagine, the family collectively craps enough bricks to build another chimney for Santa. They proceed to alert everyone in the house, running around checking the locks on the many sliding glass doors and windows, and they wake up Dad. In the meantime, the black hoodie creep can see everyone's movements because the house is pretty much completely glass window walls. This guy continues to just stand there in an intentionally creepy Jason-like pose, not moving, except now he has a sinister smile on his face. It's obvious that he's enjoying being caught. At first, the family thinks it might be a practical joke. The family members start calling out things to intimidate him like, "If this is a joke, it's not funny. We already called the cops," or "We have a gun." But the guy just keeps standing there, smiling and not moving for a long time. And then suddenly, he rushes up to the glass and starts pounding on it, not saying a word, his face still obscured by the hood. Obviously, he's intentionally trying to scare everyone, if not break into the house. And now the family really does call the police. After pounding on the glass for a good while, he runs and hops the fence near the home's trash cans and heads to the neighbor's yard. The neighbors are also good friends, so the family calls to let them know what is happening, but they never see the black hoodie man. The cops arrive within minutes, take the statements, and check all of the neighboring houses, but they never find this guy. Not long after, the family had their courtyard area completely remodeled, including a new security and lighting system. The scariest bit of this story for me is that they had no idea how long this guy was just standing there, watching them enjoy their Christmas. Some bonus information to lay things out. The home where this took place is in a quiet upper-class neighborhood. It's a square home with an interior square courtyard situated on the edge of a steep hill, with a busy 6-lane road below. It would be very difficult to climb this hill and scale the back wall to access the back porch area, and even harder to escape down without falling into the traffic below. It would also be hard to exit the neighborhood unless climbing through people's yards without being spotted by the police. The home is angled in such a way that the wind blows right through it, causing creaks and drafty sounds on even mildly windy days. A rustle or a crunch sound would most likely be ignored. The home's layout is similar to many traditional Japanese homes, with sliding doors attached to each section of the house, leading to the square middle courtyard. Except rather than wooden panels or screens, this home is all sliding glass window hallways. If someone is in the central courtyard at night, it is very easy to see into all the areas of the house without being seen, due to the reflection of the lights inside. However, the courtyard does have some dull footway lighting. The home is beautiful, but they have some creepy artwork, including stone statues of children playing in the courtyard, and a collection of cringe clown art that was so popular in the 80s. Also, their old dog used to growl intently at empty hallways in the middle of the night. It probably was just blind or deaf, but it's still freaky. I was often unnerved while house sitting for them, even before this all happened. And the home has a floor-to-roof iron front gate. It's impossible to climb over, and a wooden gate which is possible to climb, leading to the trash can storage area, adjacent to the neighbor's wooden fence. These are the only access points to the central courtyard. My conclusion for all of this is this guy was a crazy ex or old school friend playing a prank on one of his now adult kids. But years had passed and it was never revealed, so this seems unlikely. Or this guy had some mental problems and was possibly a peeping Tom type and was just having an episode. Or another, this was a Home Alone type situation where some guy was squatting in nice homes, counting on the fact that people wouldn't be home for the holidays, and possibly decided to have some fun with his family once he was spotted. I seriously doubt this single guy was planning to actually take on a family of 6+ adults. I have not stayed alone in the house since then, as the dog I used to watch passed away some time ago. I would love to hear all of your thoughts or reactions on this.